If you're having paranormal issues, contact us at mwghosthunters.com. From the files of the Midwest Ghost Hunters.
All right, Midwest Ghost Hunters site investigation, recorder 1. Oh, Dustin, right there. Something just moved behind you.
Yes, it did.
What the was that?
What happened?
Something touched my ear, man.
What's that?
This is Dark Matter with Midwest Ghost Hunters.
So last time we were here at Pythian Castle, we had it was a more, we've been, we're here, all the time. Every now and then there'll be dry spells where you don't hear much, and honestly, we've been in another room for several weeks because there was some renovations happening in this room on the flooring. So now that we're back in this room, which is where we were last week as well, we are hearing more stuff and having more experiences than we really did in that other room. Maybe if we'd give it more of a chance. With a little bit longer, period of time, we could have caught more in there. But I know that we heard a lot in here last week. And one of the most compelling things that I heard with my own ears, and John did too, and it's something we've never caught here at Pythian Castle before. Everything we catch here is like a voice, a whisper, the typical, that kind of stuff. This one sounded more like last week we caught what sounded like a growl right between us.
Yes, it was a growl. There's no question about that.
I know a lot of people's ears are going to perk up and say, "Oh, that's a demon." Well, that's not necessarily the road we go down at all. Because if it's a demon, what's it doing? Just growling and walking away?
Yeah, I don't think we have demons.
No, I don't either. Contrary to Ghost Adventures, I don't think you do either. Because we haven't, we've never had anything.
It's a really quiet demon if we have one.
It's very polite.
Very polite.
I mean, he waited till we really had a moment of space there before he even growled. I mean, that's turn taking.
Yeah.
I don't want to interrupt.
I don't want to interrupt,
but anyway, it was odd that we caught that because that's a sound we've never caught before. I know a lot of people who listen to this specific type of podcast immediately jump on the demon bandwagon, but we really don't at all. It takes a whole lot.
Demon train.
The demon train. It takes a whole lot for us to jump on the demon train. Actually, we've only jumped on that once, and we don't need to go down that road at all.
I'm not even sure. If all of our listeners knew my beliefs on all of it, they'd probably ignore everything I ever say in the future. So,
well,
my only thought on demons is if there are as many demons out there as some of these ghost shows say, then the world is just
we're fucked.
Yeah.
Hell on earth.
Yeah, pretty much. So
but demons equal downloads. And that's why they do that.
Yeah. Oh, I know why they do it.
John's Law.
That is John's Law.
It is. Demons equal downloads. So that's what people want. I mean, people don't want to have a...
that's John's Law of demonic compensation.
Yeah, I mean, people don't want to watch a ghost show or whatever and discover it was really just water running through a pipe.
And boy, does Zach deliver on that.
Everything that's ever been actually evidence gathered, it's just noises that people say, "Oh, that sounds evil and bad." There is no real evidence. Have you guys ever seen real evidence of something that actually was compelling to you about an exorcism?
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is I've been watching that Netflix show. What is that called?
I tried to watch the one that you mentioned before, and it wasn't available anymore.
No, that follows the real life story of an actual exorcism. These are reenactments of stories that happened during exorcisms in Italy. What is that show called? I can't remember. I mean, if that stuff happened exactly like it shows on the reenactment, it's pretty fucking scary.
See, as soon as the internet became a thing, my first searches were about this stuff.
Mine were UFOs.
That's what I mean, just all that. UFOs was my big one too, but also unexplained sounds, paranormal stuff, cryptids. I went down the whole rabbit hole, in the 90s when the internet first became a thing. I've seen a lot of videos. I've heard a lot of stuff, and none of it, I didn't believe it. I don't know. It just none of it seemed credible. It was later on proven to be a hoax, or many times exorcism is stuff that comes with it is you can attribute it to mental
health. Yeah, a lot of times that's what it is,
which is very sad. Yeah. And it is creepy sometimes. But if people are crawling up walls into the corner and making demon noises, roll a video.
The problem you get into with the internet is a very much a double-edged sword. It has allowed shows like this one right here that we're doing right now. 20 years ago, there was no outlet for this type of program. If you're listening to this podcast, you couldn't find something like this 20 years ago. So it's cool like that. But the problem is, if you could go back to the era of broadcast television and when that was the king, there was a lot more scrutiny. Now you can just lob something out there on the internet and there has to be no truth to it at all.
Well, I think that, I mean, like, that's good and bad, right?
Right. That's what I'm talking about. It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Well, most of those videos that pop up, whether you're on Instagram or Facebook Reels or TikTok or whatever, most of those videos pop up that show, videos you were never meant to see, or, the scariest paranormal videos ever captured. They were debunked 12 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. See, that's what I mean. I don't know. The thing that we caught, did you
hear that?
I did hear it.
I didn't hear something.
Yeah.
I didn't hear it. Oh, I heard that.
There it was again. It was a whisper. It was a... Now that the jet airliner is kicking in, you won't hear anything.
Did you hear?
No. I did not hear anything.
Did you
either time
inherit Tyler's sense of hearing?
I might have, because I did not.
Well, if he didn't hear it,
clue.
he has his... Oh, your headphones are on. Okay.
I truly immersed.
Definitely heard the whispering. That time.
So, like, the thing
I wonder whose mic that was in.
The thing that we caught that time that we kind of have said before that we referred to as a demon.
Yeah, it could have just been
not nice.
It could have just been a jackass.
It was very much not nice, but
that's kind of the way that.
Where do you draw that line?
I know, and that's kind of the way.
If you're going to put something in the demon category, I will go with it. If you want to put him over in that one. Or her, or
of
whatever
all the
that
ones
was.
we've done, that's by far the closest. And the way that the ghost hunters taps, they kind of do it the same way we do. It's like it doesn't have to be a demon. It can just be a person who was an ass.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think of? You know what I like to do sometimes? I like to watch exorcism videos.
Yeah, I know you do. You sent me that one. I laughed so I had to go to the parking lot. I had my this was when Andrew was little, my son. We were at speech therapy when he was little. And you sent me that video, and I had to go to the parking lot. I was laughing so hard because you sent your own, dialogue to go with it. It's like something about stab you in the fucking leg.
I don't remember.
It was the funniest. I laughed for 45 minutes. And even when I went back inside, I had to not look like an idiot sitting there laughing about it because it was the dumbest thing I've ever seen. And then you sent it to me because it was the dumbest thing you'd ever seen up to that point as well.
They're all the same. It's either A, fake, which is easy. You just roll around on the ground like a moron, flail your arms all over the place, and roll your eyes in the back of your head. B, a seizure, which is a medical emergency. Or C, it's, let's see, I said fake, medical.
Real?
Or no, it's not real. I was going to say a mental episode.
Oh, sure. Well, yeah, and the only one of those I've ever seen that was the least bit compelling, the person's eyes didn't roll back in their head, but they did turn black.
They turned black?
The whites of the eyes looked black. It could have been the video camera. I don't know. But the whole eyes looked black.
I've never seen a compelling exorcism video.
Well, and it wasn't necessarily that it was that compelling.
I think every time I've seen one, I'm thinking, okay, that person needs a padded room for a while.
As far as,
and some medication.
Overall, the video was absurd, but the one tiny piece of it was that the eyes did look black. I don't even know if I'd have noticed if they hadn't mentioned it. Maybe it was all CGI. Who the hell knows?
If we hadn't been out that one night, that we don't have to recount that again. But the stuff I saw that night, I just can't throw all that out. I just can't.
Well, no, I wouldn't throw it. No way.
I mean, that's the only time where I've ever actually felt physically scared and threatened was that night.
Yeah,
I hate mentioning
like fight or flight kicked in there.
I hate mentioning a show like that and then not being able to tell you what.
I think we were a few steps away from like a portal to hell opening and Dracula himself walking out.
Yeah, that was a bad night, and I'll never forget that because we were sitting in my driveway and Chris is like, Tyler wants to go, and I said, well, tell him he can go. He can go. I'm not going back in that house.
We should have gone one more time.
I don't know if we
burned down.
I was
You
say,
wouldn't
I don't
have been
know if
able
we would
to.
have ever made it because it burned.
It was a while before it burned down.
Not a whole long. No, yeah, it was like
weeks.
like very soon after we were there.
Can we not do an investigation in a week?
Well, we did. We could have.
We've been talking about going to the cemetery for
should have done
8
it.
months.
That's true.
I'm just saying.
But also we weren't too gung ho about going back. This was
You can sit there and you can be like, I would have gone back the next day, but like
That's not what I'm saying.
I wouldn't have.
That's not what I'm saying. We had the best evidence we've ever had at that house.
Right, but I don't know that I would have gone back in there.
We were new too. We were pretty new.
Even right now, I don't know that I would go back in there.
And even now, I would go, but it would be a challenge for me because I was actually
if that house still stood, I would go today.
Because there would have been evidence there, and that's what we do is collect evidence. I mean, it's not like we've got proton packs. There's nothing we can do about it.
Evidence there that had previously literally chased us out.
Yeah. See, that was the part. It wasn't anything leading up to that. That was the part that was the scary part.
The fleeing.
Leaving.
Yeah, it went from nothing. Everything was fine to the point where you were. I didn't think there was any activity in that house at all. Period.
See, but I'm not saying this, but somebody who doesn't know us and hears our material for the first time are going to say, "Well, it's convenient that all happened while the cameras weren't rolling."
It always works that way.
I would say that almost adds credibility.
We didn't have anything to roll. It was all bagged up.
Yeah, we were like leaving.
We were leaving. Yeah. If the house was still standing, I would probably go.
I think about that.
I would go.
I think about that a lot.
I wonder if the field that it was in is haunted.
Is it an empty lot? Can we just go walk around?
It's a cow pasture now. It's barbed wired in. Yeah,
I don't know that you could even find it. Well, because normally when these things burn down, they leave something there. There is no evidence there was ever a house there at all.
Usually you can see a foundation or the resemblance of what was once a yard. Or
did they fill
something.
the basement in?
I don't know what they did. It's gone. It's just pasture. It's like it was never even there. And it's not been that long ago. I mean, we're not talking something that burned down in the 60s.
We should go out there and try it.
I was gonna say if it's just a plot of land. I mean, if there's something there, I don't know why it still wouldn't. It's not like things are stuck to a house.
Why would it have to have
I drove by this
walls
place
and a roof?
14 times one time trying because I remember the corner that it was on.
Yeah, there's a big turn there.
And I remember finding the corner and being like, well, I remember thinking it should be right there, but that's obviously nothing's ever been there.
So it was a corner house? It was on a corner lot?
It was just a big S curve. And then I went all the way down the other way and I came all the way back. I was like, this is 100% the right corner. But when we were there, there was a driveway. There was fairly nice landscaping.
Yeah.
That's all gone.
It was well manicured yard.
Do you
now
still
there's
have
nothing.
like the address? Like, do you think if you Googled the address, it would still pop up?
I know where
if you still have the address, that might be interesting sometime.
But I know where.
No, I'm saying
what we're saying is it.
No, I get you. I'm just saying it would be interesting sometime to look up Google Earth and see if there's been an update. And see what's.
Actually, I think I do still have her phone number. Find the address. But there's no doubt about it that because you went out there too. John went out there too. There's no doubt it's the right spot.
A really good way to prove or disprove a theory.
Yeah, we'd have to figure out like who owns.
Do four walls and a roof really make a difference?
The problem you're going to have getting that done is whoever was the landlord still owns it, and the landlord wasn't real keen on us doing that.
That was the one where he threatened like a lawsuit. Mm-hmm. Remember, we had to take all references and even external pictures of the house had to be removed because keep in mind, we were fairly new. But up to that point, we didn't even fully grasp that it was a rental. We thought the people who contacted us were the homeowners, and it wasn't until we posted all of it online that we come to find out that it was actually a rental, and the renter was not very happy at all. So for the longest time, we had to go through and pull out any references to Willard or the family's name or anything, and it just said Southwest Missouri. But now that's all been put back.
I mean, I don't really blame him.
And I guarantee
if you roll audio in there for 15 minutes,
I guarantee that guy that or gal or whoever owns that place now or owned it then still owns the land there. And if they didn't like you doing that, they're not going to want you over there in the middle of their cow pasture.
We could just park and open our hood and say we broke down for a minute.
Well, now we can't because you just said that. But 5 minutes ago, we could have done that. Yeah.
Nice.
There's a way because it's not that far off the road. It's just weird that even in the ditch, there's no sign of there ever have been a driveway there or anything. It's like it never was there.
And it's kind of strange if the house burns down that you completely raze the land.
I know.
You fill it in, you get rid of the driveway.
It's very unusual. It's very unusual.
Spend money on that,
especially if you're someone who's been renting, a house and making, money off it. Usually they're going to rebuild something.
Unless you catch an EVP in that house that says burn, and then the house burns.
Which is exactly what we did. Wasn't there something with smoke too?
We smelled smoke in there.
Yeah, we smelled smoke inside.
Yeah, because it said, and also the EVP says smells like smoke.
What is that? Did you hear that?
What?
It was like,
yeah,
yes.
I heard
hear
that.
it.
I did. I heard something behind us there. It was while you were talking.
Didn't catch it.
You didn't hear that?
I did not hear that one.
We should do that.
Do the property. We'd figure out a way to get in there. But I've said for a long time I would love to go back there and see if there's anything there.
Just to clarify what he just said, we're going to figure out a way to get in there legally.
Yes, not wire cutters. I can
figure out a way to get in there.
We'll figure something out, because I've said for a long time I would love to go back there and see. That's the whole reason I drove down. I was expecting to drive around there and find at least the basement.
Or the chimney. Or some foundation.
It had a huge chimney.
It is gone. There is nothing over there at all.
We have the pictures posted on the website of what it looked like after it burned. There's a massive chimney.
Yeah, and that's all.
That's all that was left. And the basement. There's the burnt out basement is there too. The hole in the ground.
And wasn't there, if I remember correctly, and I might be embellishing this because it's so long ago, but wasn't there accounts of like the firefighters' comments about it?
Yeah, but they said it sounded like people screaming because it was so hot.
God.
Yeah. They actually had that fire investigated for the cause, and there was no cause. It was in February when it happened, when it burned to the ground. There was no lightning.
Didn't they eventually just say electrical or undetermined? Or something?
Yeah, there was no. Yeah, they put an undetermined cause for it to burn. There was no fuel. There was no ignition point.
Man.
So yeah, that was an interesting one. And
I think about that like all the time. I know I said that earlier. I'll just get like random thoughts, and I'll be thinking about it.
I remember exactly what it looked like on the inside. And it's important to point out, these people after their house burned down moved to Springfield, and we caught the same voices in that house.
Yeah.
We've kind of gone over that all before, but I just wanted to throw that in for any new listeners. This house, after their house burned down and they moved 30 minutes away, we started catching the exact same voices inside their new house, and had all kinds of weird stuff happen in that place too.
Under that premise, then the area would no longer be haunted because it followed the people.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know how that works. Like, we've talked about this before. It's like,
be a good test.
There will be people out there that tell you they know how that works, but they don't.
Oh, no. You mean the paranormal experts?
Yeah.
Yeah. They would tell you they know how that works. They know no more than any one of us sitting at this table. I don't know. We'll work on that. When we started this podcast out, we were going to start talking a little bit about, first of all, that submarine, Nothing
paranormal about that, mate.
Well, no, but people are making it that way. They're saying it was hit by an underwater UFO.
Good Lord.
It was hit by an underwater UFO?
Yeah.
Unidentified swimming object?
I think they call them USOs.
Yeah, submerged.
Yeah, unidentified submerged object. Anyway, that's stupid, but that is a launching point. That's a launching point into what we were.
I knew as soon as that happened, as soon as that submersible went missing, I was like, oh, this is going to be good.
They made that thing. I don't want to dwell on something
that's
that's completely not paranormal, but they made that entire submarine out of material that's meant to be at a very low pressure atmosphere.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And then did it several times in a row without getting it.
I mean, this is made out of a Boeing 747 hull. And if you know anything about atmospheric pressure, it significantly decreases the higher you go.
It was like composite or carbon fiber.
Yeah. And the lower, below sea level you go, it's like if you imagine, bowling balls sitting on top of your head. The deeper you go into the ocean, the more bowling balls in your head. That's the pressure.
I don't want to talk about this too much because it has nothing to do with our topic. But like, if anybody's interested in this, you guys should watch the documentary about James Cameron and the Challenger Deep and the sub that he took versus that thing that.
The one that James Cameron had specifically engineered for that purpose.
And I was going to point out Josh Gates, who does a lot of. He used to do a bunch of paranormal shows. Now he does all kinds of shows on travel and other networks. He was the first person to go down in that same submarine with the same driver who was in in it. And I watched that episode.
Yeah,
it was fine a couple times, but like even. They scrap airplanes that look brand new because they've been pressurized and depressurized. Yeah. So the hull is not.
It's not stable.
The integrity decreases over time, and you have to scrap it. They've made I don't even know how many dives, lots of dives.
Yeah.
At some point, it was going to fail.
And
it's
to give you an idea, about the amount of pressure on there, I saw somebody online who said it was the equivalent. The pressure was the equivalent of taking the Empire State Building and setting it on top of a vehicle.
Yeah, it's that far down in the ocean. The pressure is crushing. It's the highest point on the planet.
And I sent Chris a video that showed how fast that occurred. And
those implosions,
it was just done.
Even like big.
And if you're looking at videos of like the train cars imploding,
that's what we were watching.
That's just one atmospheric pressure difference.
Yeah.
That's nothing compared to what this would have been.
Anyway, nothing was paranormal about that in particular. The only reason I brought up the conspiracy theory about the UFOs, having a T-boning it is because we were going to talk a little bit about the UFO article that you sent. Melissa, I don't think you got it because you hate UFOs.
Yep.
But we did get it. Did you want to?
Okay, so do you remember about a year ago when I sent you that thread from that message board of that supposed whistleblower?
Yes.
Who went through, it was like a 6-page thread.
Yeah.
At the time, he was just kind of written off as a crazy person, like writing whatever they want on the internet. It's fiction. They're making it up, whatever. I thought the same thing, but I still read that stuff because it's interesting. Some of it's really creative. Some of those things that those people post are better than anything that's on TV right now.
Yeah.
He went through and he talked about an underwater facility, and he talked about how that's been here for God knows how long. And he talked about how there have been many sightings, more sightings in the water than we think of things that they can't explain. So speaking of the Titan submersible, right? The Navy knew on Sunday that thing had imploded.
Yeah.
They have we have a secret underwater listening network. The United States Navy does have since World War II.
Well, some of them aren't even secret. Some of them are for research purposes.
Right. Like the ones that are in the middle of international waters are definitely, they don't want you thinking.
Oh, that's it's to find submarines.
The Navy already knew this thing had imploded. Those same sensors that picked that up have detected things moving underwater, and this is not according to me. This is like a retired Navy guy that says we've got things going underwater moving at 1,000 miles per hour,
which is not possible.
Which is obviously impossible for us to do, and there ain't no sperm whale that's going 1,000 miles per hour either. So there are things flying around down there, just as often as there are things flying around up there, maybe more.
And that's one of the videos that the military released recently.
There's a declassified video of
skipping along the water, and then it goes all the way under.
Right. So if you want to hide something on the Earth,
I think one of the briefings said that things are coming down from altitude, is what they said, from altitude and into the water.
That was one of the best episodes.
Breakneck speeds.
Yes.
Well, the Tic Tac was in the water.
Yep.
That's where they first saw it.
And
it was in the water.
That was one of the best episodes of Paranormal Witness I ever saw, but it was over Lake Michigan, so it wasn't the ocean.
No, that happens too in the Great Lakes.
But this thing just plunged, as much there. And there were like multiple witnesses on a party barge that saw it plunge into the water.
My deal with UFOs is this, and I've sent this message around to everybody. If let's say that all of this stuff is 100% legit, and everyone that's on here is telling the truth, you still have thousands of documents that are still top secret from the John F. Kennedy assassination. That happened in 1963 in Dallas. Thousands of documents that are still sealed up. We can't read them. Top secret, national security, all this stuff here. Why would you care about holding on to those documents and keeping that secret if you're going to hold press conferences that say, hey, we've got these alien things here that we can't explain? I think it
relates to that whole thing we talked. I think we were at the podcast at the radio station that time where we talked about the gradual desensitizing of the public.
If you're going to disclose something that could be shocking to millions of people, you don't just throw it on them on a Friday. Like you trickle it. You do it over a course of 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years so that it's not as shocking. Because if you say some of this stuff that we're talking about, if this retired general and this whistleblower had come out in the 50s and said this stuff, like, can you imagine? Can you imagine like the response?
Yeah.
But now people are just more open to it, I think. The reason I brought up that message thread that I sent you guys a long time ago is that this whistleblower is saying the same stuff.
Saying the same thing,
It's the same stuff. And he's a confirmed guy in position of power in the military. This was just some message board post. And it is almost copy and pasted.
So
this whistleblower is talking about underwater facilities. He's talking about how we don't get close to them. He even said that there have been human casualties as a result of it. Like we have sent things out there to fly close, and they've just gone. They're gone.
So is this part of the explanation then behind the Bermuda Triangle? Is this part of the theory
there?
The
Bermuda Triangle is actually just like there's nothing to that.
Statistically, there's no more accidents that happen there than there are anywhere else.
Like it's just that's another like urban legend.
So where is this base supposedly located at, or have they not
didn't
released
say anything about that? He didn't give specifics on it. Like, and the ocean's very large. Like
the ocean is one of the least explored places on the planet.
Well,
especially the
so
floor.
deep.
And if you're going to be making drones to send out elsewhere, that's where you do it.
But the fact of the matter is, if there's something that has an underwater facility that can make these kinds of crafts that can do these things, it's not us. And it's not Russia, and it's not China.
1,000 miles per hour in the water is perplexing.
That's not possible.
Because that's not even on our planet. Like if I go to Saturn, I have to abide by Saturn's laws of physics.
In respect to like the gravitational.
Did you hear a ghost opening a Pepsi?
No, I did.
It sounded like
yeah.
I'm going to go check and see if she's here.
We'll catch you up when you get back.
Okay.
Ghosts love Pepsi.
Well, even in the air, from the videos I've seen, they don't follow the laws of physics in regards to inertia and drag or friction.
Right.
Or gravity. Or just like, if you put yourself in a craft and you send it hurtling 1,000 miles per hour, you're dead.
And then if you try and stop in it instantaneously from going Mach 3 to 0, then you're dead.
So is the theory that there's, okay, it's going to make it, this is going to take something that's possibly legitimate and make it sound far-fetched. I'm not meaning to, but is the theory that there's an underwater base and what we see as UFOs are unmanned?
It could be.
That's a very real possibility, yeah.
Because one of our ideas for colonizing the solar system and the galaxy would be to, because obviously these distances are so far to travel, they're way more than a human lifetime it would take to get there. Like if we sent a spaceship full of people out to the nearest star system, they'd be 3-4 generations born until they reached it.
Yeah.
But if we sent a drone that could make another drone, which could make another drone and make another drone, and just net it throughout the galaxy, that would be the quickest way to explore and populate it.
Oh, and the big thing is, like, the thought behind that is if you have that kind of stuff, you can send those first, get things set up, and then you could then maybe at some point.
Which is a nice thought.
But whatever these things are, like, it's what I was saying is it can't be us, in my opinion. And that's what this guy was saying, this whistleblower said. This whistleblower said, like, we don't know what they are. He even went as far as to say that, like, that he's not even sure they're biological. Going back to your point.
They're talking about like it could be AI or artificial intelligence.
Does this tie into the 2 U.S. nuclear submarines we just lost in the 1960s? The military really never talked a whole lot about
like the
that.
Thresher and stuff? I think the most recent sub we've lost was the Thresher, and it had a problem similar to that submersible. It had an implosion event.
I don't know. These 2 may have imploded. I don't know. I don't know. This is like during the 1960s.
Yeah, I was just reading them. There's a bunch. There's a whole bunch of them. There's a whole list of submarines that were lost. Some of them nuclear.
Yeah, these are 2 nuclear submarines that we lost.
The Scorpion was in 1968.
This is the thing about the UFO thing that blows my mind is that you'll get a guy come out and just say, "Oh, what he's saying is 100% true," and it's on the little news ticker at the bottom. So you're talking about like why are they talking about this? Why are they talking about this? I'm saying they're not really.
You have to dig for it still, yeah.
As much as you think they should be. If you've got a United States general saying that this whistleblower is telling the truth about underwater alien facilities, how is that not front page news? You're leading
right.
Story.
You're absolutely right on that.
If you've got things flying around your airspace and you don't know what they are or where they came from, that's a problem.
Well, and it's not only a matter of national security. That's a big thing, obviously, but it's also a matter of like
Melissa's on her phone.
It's also a matter of like
going home.
I'm just scrolling through Instagram.
The threat of civil unrest is real.
Yes,
and I would like to think that people would be able to be level-headed.
Would you?
Cool, calm. You know.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
No way.
I mean, we can't even keep our cool during a pandemic. So like this is like a little bit more serious than
Bob
that.
Lazar said one of the things that he said that they had at Area 51 when he worked there. You've probably seen it in sci-fi movies. It was a dome, and you put your hand on it, and it reads fingerprints. He said that was your entry. He's like, we had that. We used that. We didn't have a little card on a lanyard. We used our fingerprints to enter certain areas. And you know, the area, you know, the government all said we have no such thing. That we don't have anything like that. Well, they found one.
That's how you get into Disney World.
Well, now.
You scan your finger.
Yeah, now it is.
But they actually found one, and have you seen that video where they showed it to Bob Lazar? And he's like, that's exactly. No, he's like, that's it. That's exactly what we used.
That's in the documentary. I think it's Unacknowledged documentary. I believe is the one where he says that's the thing I drew.
Yeah,
that they said didn't exist.
Yeah,
there it is. And yeah, you're right. Now we use that kind of technology all the time, every day. Everywhere to get into freaking Disney World.
There's so many UFO things that come out, though. It's hard to even.
We would have to do a separate podcast, like a completely separate podcast, to keep up with the amount of UFO news because there's just too much.
Yeah,
it's like every day. Like I'm reading something new about something that whistleblower stuff, and that's going to be going on for a while because they're going to have congressional hearings about that. There's going to be.
Wasn't there a local politician who?
Josh
Hawley, yeah.
Yeah, the first time I've ever agreed with him. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was he referring? I don't remember what he was referring to.
He was talking about how it's a national security threat, and that he wants to look into it further. He was the one
requesting the hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
There's a lot of them, and that's the only real thing that's been bipartisan in our country for the past 50 years. You would think, right? Because it's a national security thing.
Yeah, I would hope.
Everybody freaked out about that little surveillance balloon.
Yeah.
But a craft defying the laws of physics in the air is somehow not of importance, I guess.
I think the reason why it's not of importance is because they spent 40 or 50 years discrediting those type of things.
They got egg in their face.
Yeah, there's another documentary on YouTube that talks about who the government actually hired to head the misinformation campaign.
That's the one I sent you guys.
That's the one you sent.
Yeah, it was. You need to pull that up and
but
say the name of it.
I think
really
that worked. I think that worked very, very well, and that's the reason why that so much of this stuff now, people just roll their eyes at that.
I mean, he did his job. That's what he was supposed to do. He was supposed to discredit, and that was literally his directions.
I mean, it's real. It just is.
Whether it's aliens or not, it's a completely different story.
Yeah,
but there is something flying around in our skies that is defying anything we thought was possible.
I mean, when the best fighter pilots flying the most expensive machinery on the planet say they've seen something that they can't explain, I'm inclined to believe them.
Well, that right there, that sentence you just said is a big reason why this is so secretive, is because,
they don't let morons climb on $15 million jets.
Those F-35s that can maneuver like anything else in the world don't hold a candle to whatever this is.
Is the YouTube video you were talking about?
I put it in one of our group messages.
I think I found a YouTube video. It's called "Getting to the Bottom of the UAP UFO Whistleblower Story."
That's one. Well, yeah, I think that might be one of them.
That's one. I didn't go far.
I don't remember the one that I sent, but it was the one talking about the guy that was in charge of Blue Book.
Dustin sent it, and then I sent it later. So there should be two links right next to each other.
I'll keep looking here.
I think I just sent it to you guys, and then someone posted it into our big thread.
There's one that Dustin sent here, and then there's one that Tyler sent.
They're the same video.
And it's giant UFO in Texas?
Yes.
Okay. Is that what you would search for on YouTube?
Yeah, it'll get it. Like that UFO too.
This is a full-length episode.
And why don't you put a link up to that on the website if you go to mwghosthunters.com.
Yeah, in the meantime, if you want to look it up just as we go here on YouTube,
it's actually a really good starting off point if you're just getting into all this, because it kind of gives you like a big
giant UFO in Texas is what you can search for, and it'll give you the full episode there. I did watch it here on my phone. It's pretty nuts. There's a bunch of YouTube videos about UFOs.
I think that anybody that completely discredits UFOs, I don't know how you can do that anymore. I don't know how that you can sit here and say that we're the only life anywhere in the universe. I just don't think you can.
You can admit there's UFOs without saying those little green men flying them.
Right.
Sure. I'm not even saying that there's little green men.
Because I think a lot of people don't want to go down the road of admitting there's UFOs for religious reasons.
I mean, they could just as easily be unmanned drones. But, but when you said religious reasons, I didn't know that the Catholic Church is totally accepting all of this.
They got ahead of this. The Catholic Church years and years and years and years ago.
I mean, the Catholic Church is who does exorcisms for crying out loud.
Yeah.
They're a little more open to the paranormal.
But the idea of life outside this earth, a lot of religions are very earth-centric.
I'd be curious to know how and maybe how
the universe was built for us.
Right, and I'd be curious to know how the Catholic Church reconciles that.
They got ahead of this. They actually and they're the ones that started talking about the whole, they brought up the Bible scripture verses about the fallen angels.
But still, that same Bible, the entire thing is earth-centric, that we're it.
Yeah,
well, it all depends on how you interpret it. Some religions interpret the Bible verbatim what it says.
This is really I hate to be topical, but implode.
Our topic?
No, the world, I think.
Yeah. You mean once, yes, I agree. Are you talking about once everything is known?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's going to crumble lots of different structures.
It's going to change the world.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, you guys make fun of me saying that I don't care about UFOs, and I really don't. I don't care about talking about it, but do I believe that there is life elsewhere in the universe besides here on Earth? Of course I do. Yeah. How could you not have?
Just
how
mathematically.
Can we just be it?
Right, and I think that life could even be determined by bacteria or something else.
Absolutely.
I mean, that
would excite me if we found bacterium in the sub-oceans of a moon surrounding Jupiter.
I'm sure that it's thrilled. I'm sure that that's there somewhere.
I thought we did find a microorganism in Mars. Maybe we didn't.
That's what I was going to say. I thought they found something on Mars.
When that happens, you'll know it, because that would be
the biggest news of the millennium.
I mean, there's so
all
many.
we have right now to tell us that's a thing is math.
I mean, you can tell. I mean, it's been determined 100% that Mars was a water planet at one point.
At one point, it
looked
was
like
yeah.
Earth.
So there's got to be something there.
It's very similar to
Fossil
Earth.
of some kind. I'm not talking about a face or a pyramid.
I mean, Venus is pretty similar to Earth, but it's a greenhouse hellscape.
Yeah, but what I mean is like Mars is like geologically, Mars was active geologically. It had an atmosphere very similar to ours. It had comparable gravity. I mean, it was really close to what we're living in.
The
Right now.
gravity on Mars is very similar. It's ours is 9.8 meters per second squared. I think theirs is like 9.5.
The really interesting thing to me that's got me kind of hooked on this most recent whistleblower is the whole underwater facility thing, because I never actually considered that for some reason.
Well, that's a whole that's most of our planet.
Yeah.
that we
That
don't
would be a
even
great
know.
place to hide stuff.
Yeah.
It would
That's
be-
the only place to hide stuff.
Especially if you're going down to the depths that we're talking like Titanic level of depth.
Yeah, and if you can travel 1,000 miles an hour, you're there in a snap.
And it gets deeper than that.
Yeah, the Titanic's shallow.
That's 2.5 miles
Well,
deep.
how far down is the Mariana Trench?
Oh,
How far
that's-
down is that?
It's
Significant. Like the Titanic is here. That's like down here. Like it's
Well, how
way
far,
far.
how far have humans made it down there?
It is way deeper than Everest.
James Cameron has the diving record. The
we-
guy that made
we've been
freaking
to the
Avatar.
bottom.
Yeah, I mean, how far down is he going?
I don't remember.
He's gone down to at least Titanic.
They've
Oh,
been
he
down
went
to
way
the
down.
Challenger.
did.
No, they've been down to the
He went
Challenger,
the Challenger Deep. Yeah.
That's the deepest point on the planet.
Yeah.
The Mariana
I mean,
Trench.
there are life forms down there that we don't know anything about.
Well, yeah, because no one's really done deep level exploration.
the Titanic is only 2.5 miles deep.
Right. And I think he
The
went
Mariana
like
Trench,
6 or 8.
The Mariana Trench is over 7. Yeah, 7 miles. That's deep.
I didn't
So
even know.
yeah,
that-
I mean, if people are hiding stuff down there in facilities,
I mean, how do we possibly even have a sub that can travel that deep?
We do.
I mean, that's unbelievable.
That's why I was saying earlier, watch that documentary. I'll send it to you about the Challenger Deep. It's fascinating.
send it to me too. I'll watch it.
Well, I mean,
You're in.
that was a serious exploration research mission.
Now, see, that's what I'm interested in: is the real stuff, not all the BS crap that's out there.
Oh, yeah?
I want to know about the real
Where
stuff.
were you at this weekend?
Turning some rods.
I was looking at all the pretty crystals, and oh yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Hey, y'all are into paranormal shit too. So.
The James Cameron sub was specifically engineered for that purpose. This other one was a Coke can.
It's a taxi cab, yeah.
with operated via
It's a joke.
PlayStation controller.
That's why I watched that documentary, because I'd seen it before, this James Cameron one, but I wanted to see it with this whole thing fresh in my mind. And like, I'm sorry, I'm not making light of people that died, but it is very funny to compare the one that's like, there's not even seats in it.
Yeah.
Compared to James Cameron, the Challenger Deep, the thing I think that was what it was called. Like the sub he took. I think they called it the Challenger Deep, honestly.
I don't know.
And it's like a spaceship. It's the closest thing engineering something to go down there is way harder than engineering something to go up there.
Yeah,
Well,
dealing
keeping
with higher
pressure
pressure,
out
yeah.
is way easier than
Yes.
keeping pressure in.
Yeah.
So
Or way harder.
It's really, really, really cool.
Yeah, we can pressurize an airplane all the live long day, but when you start talking about that amount of weight on an object,
It has to be perfect.
Yeah.
You got
Not a dent.
you got the weight of all the water above, like in a square above you, plus the weight of the atmosphere above that, all pushing down on you.
Yeah.
You better be like in a 55 Chevy.
Dude, like, take a tub, like one of those storage tote, and fill it up with water and try and pick that shit up.
Yeah. Well, the way that we learned, atmospheric pressure, whenever I was in atmospheric science classes, is if you're standing at sea level, you imagine the atmosphere is a stack of bowling balls. However high you go, the higher you go, the fewer bowling balls you're going to have pushing down on your head. The further, deeper you go, the more you're going to... Did I say that backwards? The higher you go, the less you will have.
Yeah.
And then the deeper you go, the more you'll have. It's crushing pressure. So, yeah, to use a discarded Boeing 747 makes very little sense to me. It was brand new right out of the package, meant to be pressurized at a very low pressure environment.
A lot of those submersibles are actually created and made for one dive. There's a lot of them that
And
do
this
that.
one would have been fine for that. It's done 20 of them. It would have done.
I sure as hell wouldn't have taken it to the Challenger Deep.
Well,
No. But
Titanic,
I'm
maybe.
talking
Yeah.
to the Titanic because they had made multiple trips there and been fine.
Yeah.
and a lot of people in the beginning made a big deal, and it kind of is that these particular passengers chose to have an excursion. They wanted an untethered excursion. They didn't want the rope tied on, that's attached to the boat above. But with an implosion, it wouldn't have made any difference.
You could have 20 ropes.
No, it wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah, it wouldn't have made any difference.
The really comforting thing for their families, I'm sure, is that it was very quick.
Oh, Lord, yeah. It's instantaneous.
Yeah, you wouldn't even feel it.
At those depths, when there's an implosion event, when there's an amount of air that was in that submarine, like when it is compressed as fast as it was, it turns into a fireball. It's like an underwater explosion.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Because
It's
I
like
can't even imagine taking that amount of air and compressing it so fast.
Yeah. It's
even
like a miniature black hole.
Even a pinhole leak, the speed of that water that'd be coming in would be like a laser.
Yeah.
Well, and that's kind of the sad thing for the families is that there will be no remains
No.
to take home.
No,
They
it's
won't
very
be able to
bad. It's
recover
very
anything.
very sad deal.
Well, and it's sad that the officials let it go for as long as it did. They knew on Sunday that they were gone.
Yeah.
But they had to do this big rescue.
I think a lot of that might just be them hesitant to say anything because they wanted to actually find debris first. It's no coincidence they waited till the oxygen supply would have been gone before they announced it.
Yeah.
And it was like the next hour. Like it was like oxygen supply runs out 96 hours, and then like an hour 100 or something it was announced. I might be off on that, but it was very close to that. So I don't know how we got off on this.
We got off on a side rant there. We'll leave that to another podcast to dissect.
The UFO thing, I mean, it's crazy, man. There'll be a lot more in the coming years.
I think I will post that YouTube link that you sent up on the website, mwghosthunters.com. You're right, though. In order to cover everything that's now coming out, we would have to have a separate podcast dedicated to nothing but that, because there's so much UFO stuff coming out all the time. I mean, pictures, videos, and even leaks like you were talking about, too.
Just wait for those hearings. I'm really interested to see what happens with that. Because usually with the whistleblower, you don't have people he worked with backing you up.
Yeah, right.
And he's got like some pretty high level guys with some stars on their chests.
Well, and when you have the Senate, when you have Congress looking into stuff, it becomes very public.
I really am a firm believer that like probably within our lifetimes there will be some kind of like public disclosure event.
I really hope so. It's looking that way.
It's accelerated for sure.
What a time.
Anyway,
I think at this point it might just take one more mass sighting, like one more big
like
one.
an Independence Day type thing.
Well, maybe not that dramatic, but just something, something above New York, San Francisco, like something where like thousands of people see it at once, and it gets kind of hard to ignore at that point.
We're almost there. I will post that video, that YouTube video at mwghosthunters.com. We do have paranormal investigations coming up too. We'll get into those. Maybe by the next time we all gather here for the podcast, we'll have one done. Hopefully, we got a couple lined up.
And more Dark Matter is on the way next week with Midwest Ghost Hunters from Pythian Castle in Springfield, Missouri.